13,360 and expenditures of 1.114. The intent of the net negative was to use child care's fund balance. Yeah, so you approve the use of $1,000 at the adoption of the budget. She has now projected additional revenue with her less expense. So what we're saying is instead of actually using $1,000, she will only now be needing $700 from her fund balance.
Okay. So this is all still within the child care budget?
This is all the child care's fund.
And there's funds to cover that?
Yes, it is.
Okay. That answers my question. Thank you.
Just for those of you that are here, child care pays for itself. So the city does not expend any funds from its general fund to pay for child care services because it generates its own revenue. And those were some of the questions that you heard.
I have an additional question. On the fiscal impact, the lead teacher position is $30,000 annually, covering the proposed increase is $25,500. So is that because it's only a portion of the year? Is that what you're saying?
I'll move the item.
Second.
Item 3E has been moved and seconded.
Great job.
Motion carries, all ayes.
Okay, item 3I. How do we do this, Mr. City Attorney?
Unless there's a question to discuss, you would just move that item with the amendment that was suggested by the city manager. Her amendment that she recommended is on the record, so just reference it.
I have a question. On page 152, voucher number 69693, the saver of the child care and planning ad. Is there a reason that we can't satisfy requirements for placing ads electronically through Career Builder or other sources so that we don't have these costs? Or free, or other free online sites?
You know, they do advertise online for free also. And then depending upon the type of position they're trying to fill, if they're not getting a good response of qualified applicants, then they will look to do something that's a paid ad also. But they typically advertise just online.
So that's done for a certain period of time when they don't get the response that they need.
If they're looking for usually it's a more skilled, like a teacher level type position.
Oh, like a penny saver?
Pardon?
The penny saver is able to bring us those skills people?
Apparently so. I don't have anyone for child care that can comment on.
Too many items.
Oh, Kathy, come on down. I'm sorry.
I'm just surprised that penny savers can be a dwindling resource. It's more typical resource. Yeah, they're listed.
Good evening.
Hi there.
Yes, there were, Penny Saver was kind of our last resort because it was going to cost us some. We go through the colleges, through the early childhood development departments at RCC, Crafton, as well as Valley College. And then we also advertise just through parents, letting parents know that they know someone who is looking for, you know, a job teaching preschool or school-aged child care and have the 12 units and experience under their belt. So Penny Saver was kind of last resort, and Craigslist was another avenue that we did take. And when we went through the avenues that were no cost, then that's when we turned to advertising through Penny Saver, because it was, you know, least cost in comparison to what Press Enterprise was, their fees, as well as the Sun Telegram.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will move item 3I with the removal of check number 69687 as explained by the city manager.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please vote.
Motion carries, all ayes.
Okay. We want to move item 7A up, because most of the these people came for that. We'll save public comment. Second.
Well, we have a second from the audience, so I think we should listen.
You should let them run and come up here and run things.
Okay. Okay, we will move to item 7A, which is the second San Bernardino Local Agency Formation of Commission presentation on disincorporation. Our city manager, Betsy, will give a brief introduction, and Kathleen Rollins McDonald from LAFCO will give a presentation. This is a receive and file item. Again, if you have questions during the presentation, please fill out one of the blue questionnaire cards and turn them in to Tracy, the city clerk, and I will ask them so that Kathleen can just stay at the podium and answer those questions. Betsy.
At a recent council meeting, the council expressed a desire to have Kathleen Rollins McDonald, who's the executive officer with San Bernardino LAFCO, come to a council meeting to address some additional questions on disincorporation. Kathy was out to see the council at a special meeting which was televised on April 30th of this year, and that was a result of a follow-up that came out of a budget workshop meeting on April 22nd. Kathy provided a lot of information to us that evening. It's important to say at the time, and it's still correct this evening, that the council does not desire disincorporation, rather the council desires to get information about disincorporation. There were a couple of items that Kathy shared with us at the meeting on April 30th that I just want to go through very quickly, and then I'll turn it over to her to provide a little bit of additional information, and then of course to answer questions from the council or the audience. The information that Kathy shared with us, the first and probably most important thing to emphasize is that disincorporation is only possible through a vote of the residents of Grand Terrace. Kathy also advised us that LAFCO would require that any disincorporation vote in Grand Terrace move forward only on the condition that a special tax be included to pay for outstanding obligations that the city might have. With regard to annexation, it could be allowed, and I'm saying could be allowed if disincorporation was considered in the future, but such an action would require a vote on the part of residents of both Grand Terrace and Colon. The fourth option, which was kind of an interesting concept, is the idea that the city disincorporate and then form at the same time a limited services community service district, which could assume some of the long-term debt of the city. That could provide some benefit, although that would not preclude the possibility of the area of Grand Terrace being placed into Colton's sphere of influence. And then also LAFCO provided information to us on the financials that were provided for the Grand Terrace incorporation effort 3 decades ago, and included in that was information on 6% utilities tax. And I think that pretty much hits the highlights of what Kathy shared with us, and now I'd like to bring her forward, and she's ready to provide information and answer your questions.
I do have some requests to speak on this item that aren't specifically questions.
Oh,
Okay, first one, Sally, do you still want to speak on this item, or do you want to save any questions? Speak now.
No, that is. I have a question she probably will address, and it sounds like it's being addressed, but my question is, for the last 3 years, we've been talking, not me, but some of us have heard that we will disincorporate if, in fact, this tax doesn't pass. And from what I'm hearing, from what Betsy just said, it sounds like maybe she's here tonight to tell us that that isn't possible, but that hasn't been what's been said for the last 3 years. And I think there is a lot of misinformation out there that people believe that if the tax does not pass, we go directly to disincorporation. I could be wrong, but that's what I think some people believe. So my questions are, and I think she will address them, is how does that work? The tax doesn't pass. I'm not saying for or against it. I'm just saying the tax does not pass. What happens next? How does that happen? How do we disincorporate? Do we disincorporate? And I think we just heard that the answer is that the people have to vote on that. So I think she's going to answer my questions.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Next, I have Jeff McConnell.
I'd like to
speak after she speaks. You can only ask a question after she speaks. You need, if you're going to speak, you need to speak now.
Usually, the Chairman Connell and Avenue, usually when we speak on items, it's after it's been discussed by the council. I just wondered why it was such a percentage. Okay, well, she pretty much said it.
You want to say this question or speaking? Go ahead.
I think, well, didn't you say that he can speak during public comment, that this is actually agenda items that
He has to speak on this.
No, not public comment. Usually in the past, items that we speak on is after the council talks about the items. I was expected to speak after she spoke. Mr. Mayor,
If I may, this is not an item where they get a presentation and are going to make a decision. This is merely a presentation.
right,
That's the difference.
So it's different than what you're used to.
okay. So can I speak afterwards then, Mr. Lewis?
You may fill out a blue card with a question for the mayor to ask a question, or you can speak now.
That answers my question. If you have no choice, I'll speak now. I'm with the organization that's trying to help educate the public with options other than this tax. And some of our walkings around, we're finding out that some people on the council and their troops are going around telling people exactly the opposite of what the city manager just talked about, that if this tax is passed, that we're going to disincorporate Colton. So it behooves us and others that we are trying to get the truth out there that no, that's not the case. That yes, it does have to go before the people to vote to disincorporate. And yes, at the same time, it also has to go to vote before the people to tax ourselves. It doesn't wipe out our debt. So I'm glad that the city manager brought that up. And I hope that the LAFCO representative, Ms. McDonald, emphasizes and goes about that in detail. So that the public does know the truth and the public doesn't think we're going to disincorporate just because this tax goes down. The tax also fails. The city manager has already given us some options. We've been saying there's options out there, and some people think there's no options because they're being told there are no options. Once again, they're being misinformed. The city manager has already presented several budgets, scenarios, if the tax fails. Those are options. I don't necessarily like them. Others may not like them either, but they are options. There is an option that I've been saying, and other people have been saying, Mr. Wilson's been saying, that we could go to a contract city. And I have a YouTube video out on the website from a city of 90,000 people. They have only 5 employees, and they have no unfunded liabilities, which means unpaid pensions. Yes, it's in Georgia, so some people have been saying we can't do that in California. Once again, they haven't done the research. And this weekend, they will be on the website. I found over 25 cities in California that are contract cities, and there are more. There are also over 120 charter cities, which gives us more flexibility, if we so desire, to help cut costs and our overhead. So I just want to say, yeah, there are options. Yes, I doubt that people are going to vote to disincorporate. And I doubt that people at the same time are going to vote to tax themselves if we disincorporate. Because yeah, most everybody doesn't want to become Colton, that's obvious too. So I would really appreciate it if those people run around telling people that we're going to disincorporate if this tax doesn't pass, that they tell people the truth. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Next I have Doug Wilson.
Evening, Mayor and Council. I'm not exactly sure why it was necessary for the council to bill agenda item number 7 as additional information on disincorporation. Kathleen Rawlings McDonald did an excellent and exhaustive job describing the circumstances surrounding disincorporation on April 30th, 2013. Back in 1978, when the financial feasibility of Grand Terrace was addressed in relation to becoming an incorporated city, at that time they talked about revenue sources. very important subject, obviously, and it said, in essence, in the report that LAFCO put together, in lieu of a 6% utility tax or some other source of revenue, LAFCO recommended reducing expenditures and deferring capital improvements to minimum levels. If the city service levels expanded, then funding, either in the form of a utility tax or replacement funding source, could be used. And as we know, for 35 years, right or wrong, RDA money was that funding. Civic Center, parkland, and other development or city facilities was not a part of that consideration originally when the city was voted to be incorporated. Bottom line is, the city charter was approved assuming a very narrowly defined service level. And that is where we are. That is really where we need to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Clarification, we're not a charter city, correct? We're a general law city.
And the requirements to change over to a charter city are fairly significant and very difficult to do. Many cities have tried, including looking at together.
I have one more request to speak. Virgil Lesser.
Hello.
Lesser, 2950 Jensen Court, Grand Terrace. I have to say that Mr. McConnell is very wrong. His party is going around spreading rumors that people will lose their businesses if this tax is going to be implemented. On the other hand, Mr. McConnell is the same person which was in the budget meeting when they came up with the UTT tax. And he voted for it. And now he turns around and takes this upper side position. I think that Mr. McConnell is very dishonest. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barry. I have no more requests to speak. Kathleen, the floor is yours. Well,
Great.
you're down on taxes, public comment, which
Oh,
would be
okay,
item-
public comment also.
I got it.
Public comment also.
This is not public comment. This is comment on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm here and I've been asked to kind of reiterate what was presented in April. And for those in the audience who are new to this, disincorporation is a process that must be initiated by someone, be it the city council, through resolution or petition of the residents of the city of Grand Terrace. No other method to start the disincorporation process is available, unless you go to the state legislature and do it statutorily. But in the 40 years or 50 years that LAFCOs have been in existence, there have only been 2 disincorporations. One, the city of Cabazon, the other, the city of Hornitos, which is in Mariposa County. Cabazon disincorporated through a LAFCO process, Hornitos disincorporated through the legislature, and those are the only 2. As I said in April, a disincorporation is the antithesis of what LAFCO does. LAFCO's mission is to nurture and preserve and protect areas so that the residents can look to local governance for the major issues that present themselves to smaller urban metropolitan areas. Disincorporation extinguishes a city. It makes it go away. It does not relieve, however, debts or change contracts or do any of those other things. And in fact, LAFCOs must preserve and protect all bonds and bondholders through the LAFCO process. We are not like a bankruptcy. We cannot reassess or change those debts. Bankruptcy where entities have large debts, large contracts, other types of financing issues, bankruptcy has the ability to change those. LAFCO does not. As was identified in the materials that your city manager presented to you, the disincorporation process would in fact require that we look at all debts of the city and make sure that they're paid. The opening statement or the opening bullet said that if LAFCO would not approve a disincorporation unless it included a special tax. There are other means to approve a disincorporation, but it means that we would be obligated to address existing financing structures, to pay all existing debts, and then what's left over would pay for services.
When you say special assessment,
Special tax.
special tax, and when you did this presentation before, is that something that would only be charged to property owners through parcel tax, or are there different mechanisms and means that can be done?
It's typically a parcel tax because that's the only way simple way to assess people for that. Special tax, as you're all well aware, requires a 2/3 vote. And for those who ask the question, disincorporation does in fact require a vote of the registered voters within the city of Grand Terrace. Even if LAFCO were to go through the entire process, approve disincorporation, include an assessment as to what that special tax would be, we would place it on a ballot and the registered voters of the city of Grand Terrace would decide. And if it included a special tax, 2/3 of the registered voters would in fact need to vote yes. And so if disincorporation fails, the city remains. All of the financial issues of the city continue. You will exist. You will continue to exist with the financial resources that you have, and you would need to make decisions in respect to how to live within those. Yes, sir.
This is where I'm going to ask you some questions.
Okay.
I don't know if I should let you just go through the presentation entirely.
Well, I'd like to
this
hear
is
the
more
presentation.
about, pardon?
I'd like to hear your whole presentation before we ask questions.
It's much abbreviated. I won't take as much time as I did the last time around. But I wanted to be sure that everyone understood that this is a process. LAFCO, the commission, is made up of 7 voting members. 2 are members of city councils or mayors of cities that are chosen by the 24 cities in this county. 2 are members of independent special districts selected by the 51 independent special districts. 2 are members of the Board of Supervisors, and those 6 select a public member. That is who I work for. We are not a part of the county. We are not a part of the state. We are a mandated entity that exists in every county in the state of California, and we are independent. I work directly for and at the direction of the local agency. The statutes that revolve and discuss this process are known as the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Local Government Act of 2000. CKH can be found in Government Code Section 56,000 through